Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel for another update on ICP. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the most recent bull trap that we are witnessing over on InternetComputer protocol, and then I'm going to move into one of the most bearish divergence signals that I've ever seen in my entire life on trading. This really does look horrible, but first of all, let's jump into the lower time frame. So right off the back, you can see ICP has had a relatively decent bounce. In the past 5 to 7 days or so, we have headed up about 49%, which does seem good, but then obviously you do zoom out and you can see that we have done this time over time again. The most recent time we had about a 50% bounce, we bounced up to $23, and now people are getting out of bed for the move back up to $7.50. Just like when we had a 80% bounce up to $38, people were getting out of bed. Just like when we had a 54% bounce up to $58, people were getting out of bed. And you can really see that, you know, every single dead cat bounce, or as I've titled it in this video, every bull trap that we do have, we are approaching lower highs time after time again. The most recent bull traps were right here at $14.62. The most recent one after that, about 2 weeks ago, was coming in at $9.80. People got out of bed for that, and now people are getting out of bed for the move back up to $7.50. If you do zoom out, when in doubt, zoom out, you will see the market is losing all types of strength. And in my opinion, you know, we'll be looking at the oscillators in a second, but it's already looking like the bull trap is done and we're going to be heading to the downside. It's not just for ICP. Bitcoin is playing out some pretty bearish technicals, which I'm going to be talking about in just a moment. But nothing has changed since my last video in terms of the technical analysis over on ICP. There is one fib that has changed that I will update you on, but the purpose of this video was to talk about these higher time frame divergences, which are very much eye-opening. So right off the back, since we made our last prediction for ICP, we made two predictions quite recently. We had two targets that we set from around about the 755 range and the 737 range. And you can see, you know, since our most recent update, we did massively capitulate into these lower levels. And then basically we just bounced up to this previous resistance where we were talking about when we set our original prediction. So once again, you know, high up here, high, lower high. Every time we do have these bounces, it is just another lower high. And you can see if we do draw our 618 and 786 Fibonacci from this most recent low up to this high, you can see we got stuck on the candle body closes on the daily time frame at the 786 Fibonacci right here. We managed to wick up. We didn't quite make it to the 618, and we have confirmed it as resistance, and we are starting to head down to the downside. I'll talk about why I think we're going to get continuation with the oscillators in just one moment. If we do draw our new Fibonacci, so from our most recent high up here down to this low, it's a little bit hard to see. I will remove some of these Fibonacci so you can see it a bit easier. You don't necessarily need to worry about these targets that are darkened out like the 0.5 fib. What really matters, let me clear up this chart. What really matters is the orange box that is yielded that I have highlighted, because these are the most important targets. You have your 786 Fibonacci here, your 618 fib here, and your 0.5 Fibonacci right here. To get collectively, this orange box is the most important range when you are drawing your Fibonacci's from a high to a low and a downtrend. If you come up and get rejected from these boxes, you are basically confirming there's still resistance, and you're very likely to take the next leg to the downside very soon. And that is exactly what we've done. We've been heading to the downside for the past 3 days. We didn't even manage to come up to the 618 fib, let alone the 786 fib. We didn't even manage to close anything, any candle body closes anywhere near the 0.5 Fibonacci. So the markets are showing extreme weakness in the higher time frames. Like I said, in terms of the technicals, since our last two predictions where we were updating you on these, round about 755 to 740, so let's just call it 750 to make it easy, we had a massive capitulation, we broke back up, and all we've done, you know, I see people getting out of bed for this left, right, and center. You've got highs, lower highs, and lower highs. Has the market structure changed whatsoever? And is this bounce even visible when you head over to the Heikin-Ashi candles on the weekly time frame? So quite interestingly, the bounce is actually visible on the weekly time frame, and as you can see, normally when you do switch over to the weekly time frame and you do get these weekly bounces on the Heikin-Ashis, they're normally short-lived for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So in my opinion, you know, we're going to be heading down very soon for ICP. And if we do head over to the monthly time frame, you can basically see this has been in a downtrend for all of its existence. So Moonboys love to shill this over on YouTube. If you do type in Internet Computer over on YouTube, the state of the ICP community is an absolute joke. It is basically just a bunch of clowns shilling BS information. Like quite recently, if you type in Internet Computer Protocol over on crypto YouTube, there's people basically outright lying and saying that Elon Musk is interested in ICP. They took a tweet over on Twitter completely out of context. I did make a news update on this if you do want to check it out. I'm pretty sure it ended up in my news updates down here. Yep, Internet Computer Protocol, they're lying to you. If you want to know all about, you know, this most recent scumbag YouTuber FUD, where, well, not FUD necessarily, they're basically lying and saying Elon Musk is interested in ICP. They took a tweet completely out of context, and this is the state of the ICP community. So, you know, nonetheless, nothing has changed in the higher time frames, the mid time frames. We've basically just come back up to where we initially made our prediction, and now we're starting to head to the downside. Once again, I'll let you know what's going on with the oscillators before we do move on to some of the most bearish signals I've ever seen in my 5 to 6 years worth of trading. If we do look at the 4-hourly time frame, you can see that the squeeze momentum indicator is heading down into its dark green phase. This should be indicative that we are about to massively start heading to the downside. You can also see, in my opinion, this looks like we are creating a rounding top formation. I'm sure if we head over to the 1-hourly time frame, this would look like a BART pattern where you're spiking, 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 and we're probably going to come all the way back down to $6 very, very soon, wipe out most of these gains. If we do something like that, you could potentially see, obviously this hasn't come into fruition yet, so take it with a grain of salt. We could potentially do something like this, where we could be forming a head and shoulders pattern. This would be the signal that the top is in for the most recent bull trap, and we will be massively catapulting down to the downside. I'll let you know once again my mid to higher time price targets for ICP to go down to. On the money flow indicator on the 4-hourly time frame, this got massively overextended, and you can basically see every single time it comes up to this overextended region around about 80, it's the top. And in my opinion, what we're seeing right here is the start of a massive blow off top, which is going to solidify this bull trap to be once again, one of the greater bull traps on ICP, moving up 55%. But like I said, you know, when in doubt, zoom out. It's not like this is the first time ICP has had a 50% bounce up to a lower high. If we do look at the MACD got super overextended. This is so beat down. It has so many retail traders and institutions selling this. Or I take that back. There's not a large amount of institutions whatsoever in ICP. There is no smart money in ICP. What I mean by that is there is no large money, there is no accredited investors that would really be interested in holding this for the long term. It is purely, just like XRP, a retail driven coin, and this is going to go down a lot further in my opinion. So MACD, it's been a while since the MACD got this overextended, and in previous times you can see when it does get this overextended, you head down very quickly. So the technicals, the momentum indicators are all calling for this to be a dead cat bounce. Now, let's look outside of the regular chart analysis that we do. Let's move over to something very plain and simple, and this is one of my favorite indicators. This is hidden bearish divergence. Now, this is super short, super simple, but this is a powerful indicator. And if you're a veteran to my channel, you would have seen that I've been talking about hidden bearish divergence playing out over on Bitcoin. We've been talking about this for the past 4 days. We've been saying, you know, Bitcoin is very likely to come up to this line, confirm this hidden bearish divergence, and head back down to the downside. So over on Bitcoin, on the daily time frame, you can see what hidden bearish divergence is. If you don't know what it is when the price and the oscillator diverge in a bearish manner. What this entails is where you've got the highs in the price action, and after you have a high, you have a lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, and you're basically trending down like this. And over on the oscillator, you've got a high, a higher high, a higher high, a higher high in terms of the tops of the oscillator. And what this means is that the price action is getting weaker and weaker and weaker every time you come up to this trend line, but the oscillator is getting more and more and more overextended, meaning that even though the price action is moving to the downside, because the markets are so weak, it means that you're getting more and more overextended with every dead cat bounce that you have. And eventually, this is a signal that you should be having a massive massive capitulation. If you want to know where I think Bitcoin's going in the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months, my personal bottoming targets for Bitcoin are 16,500 to 14,000. I'm a big Bitcoin fan. I do look forward to accumulating cheap Bitcoin at those ranges. So I was just showing you Bitcoin's bullish divergence because it's very important to know what's going on with the general markets instead of just what's going on with ICP. You'll never get the full picture on what ICP is likely to do if you're only looking at ICP USD. So now we've looked at the hidden bearish divergence playing out on Bitcoin. Let's first of all start talking about the hidden bearish divergence that's playing out over on ICP. Now, the divergence on Bitcoin has been playing out since about the 13th of June, but the divergence over on ICP has been playing out since the 27th of April. And this is the daily time frame. And this is, yeah, from the 27th. You can't draw it back further from there because the highs are actually higher. So this is where you would start. Once again, this is where you've got the price action making lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. Once again, it is very, very nice to look at a clean chart on ICP without all of my Fibonacci's, without all my trend lines and etc. And you can very much see that you've just got highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and you do have these massive runs to the upside. So once again, while I think ICP is going to be massively heading to the downside, I'm not just saying it's going to go down in a straight line. That's never going to happen. It's going to do stuff like this, and it's going to chop people in and out of the market before this does go down to basically zero, in my opinion. Now, if we do look at the daily time frame on this hidden bearish divergence, once again, we talked about this. This is almost the exact same as what we're seeing over on Bitcoin, except this has been playing out for 75 days. So this is absolutely brutal. This hidden bearish divergence has been consolidating for well over 2 months now. If you do look at the RSI and the daily time frame, we're coming up for 62. So we're getting very, very close to that heavily overbought territory. And in my opinion, the most bullish scenario for ICP is probably to break down and have one more dead cat bounce, potentially up to 650. And I imagine I'll be making this video again in about a month's time, in about 3 months time, not 3 months time, 3 weeks time, when we probably bounce up to about 650. And people are once again telling me, hey, can you check out ICP? ICP is going to the moon. It's having a moonshot. And then, you know, once again, this would be a lower high from here, lower high from here, and a lower high from here. So, you might be thinking, you know, this is only 2 months worth of bearish divergence. Surely this can't be the most bearish technical that this guy has ever seen in his life, considering he's been trading for 5 years. Well, when in doubt, zoom out, right? We can't extrapolate the daily hidden bearish divergence much further, but what happens if we go over to the weekly time frame? Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is the most disgusting and bearish pattern that I have ever witnessed in my entire life. Now, let's just draw a line of best fit. And you can see in terms of the price action, once again, it's super important to look at the higher time frames and not get suckered in by these weekly rallies, because, I mean, we can look at ICP up here at $1,500. People got out of bed for the move up to 87. They got out of bed for the move to 59, 38, 26, 10. Now, once again, 760 is the new hopium level that everyone is getting out of bed for. But look at this. We have been playing out. Let me draw the RSI trend line as well. So you have an uptrend over on the RSI right now, and it already looks like we're starting to play out this hidden bearish divergence, because if we do draw the lines very tightly to a line of best fit where it is coming up to the candle body closes here, 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 and you can start to see when we do have these most recent bounces, we're not coming anywhere near this trend line, but we're still making these lower highs. So we have had this hidden bearish divergence where the price action has been heading down, but the oscillator's becoming more and more overextended over time. And this, my friends, is probably one of the worst divergences I've ever seen in my entire life. 427 days worth of hidden bearish divergence on ICP. You know, I'm telling you, some people hate on me for giving my honest opinion on this, because if you go on crypto YouTube, you're probably very likely to be used to Moonboy Hopium. Every time there's a new 5% bounce, everyone's like, to the moon, to the moon, to the moon. This bullish pattern will take ICP to $1,000. Elon Musk BS, all of that stuff for ICP. I'm telling you, you can hate on me if you want for giving my honest opinion, but this cryptocurrency is absolute dog shit. No one needs it. This is going to zero. I've been saying it's going to zero since I made my YouTube account in January. I was making videos on this at $37 and I've kept the same opinion on it all the way back then. And once again, I'm letting you know this dead cat bounce up to $7 is just a dead cat bounce. This is the worst hidden bearish divergence I've probably ever seen in a cryptocurrency chart. And I'm telling you, at some point in time, ICP, in this bear market at least, we're going to at least $1. But after that, you know, we might have a run up as the bull run starts, a run up to a macro lower high. But at some point soon, this cryptocurrency is going to zero. So in the short term, as I've been saying with my TA, your 1.618 is your next move to the downside. In my opinion, ICP is going to be moving down to about $3.14 in the next couple of months or so. The next level to the downside is actually a slightly higher macro 2.618 Fibonacci retracement, and this would be down here at $1.73. Let's see if we do have another Fibonacci down from there. This is where it starts to get shaky, because as you can see, our next Fibonacci targets would be down here at basically 6 cent, 3 cent. So it's really not looking good for ICP, even if we draw our shorter time frame moves. And this is what I mean. We're having to cherry pick the data just to get slightly more bullish price targets, which is obviously not a good sign. So, you know, if I do cherry pick from a low up to a high that I would not typically use from, because this is not a large swing, I would be trading from this move up to this move, and this would be saying that you're basically going to go to zero, which is also what I've been saying. But, you know, like I said, we're going to cherry pick the data, drawing from the most bullish Fibonacci that we can, because this is the smallest impulse yielding the smallest retracement target. This would be taking us all the way down to $1. And once again, I do think we're heading down to $1 very, very soon. In the next couple of months, this is going to be an 84% drop. Let's take it one step at a time though. In the short term, my price targets are still the same. We were talking about this massive M pattern breakdown over here. This is going to take us down to 324. This is the next line in the sand. As you can see, I have not moved my price target from my last video. And when we were making updates on this all the way over here at 750, you know, we were once again calling for the 2.618 at $1.70 to be in play. This is still very much the case. You can see on the daily time frame how flat the bullish momentum is. Every time we come up for a bullish move, you know, some of these were okay. Some of these were pretty good, if I'm honest. But, you know, since June, these bounces have just shown the extreme weakness in the market. And, you know, once we zoom out, you can really see sometimes we have these short-lived bullish bounces, but look at the bearish impulses. The bearish impulses are much stronger. The daily time frame is just about hanging in there. We are running out of momentum, and once again, in the lower time frames, it does look like we're getting ready for that next move to the downside very, very soon. I wouldn't necessarily expect this to come into fruition in the next 24 hours. However, I wouldn't be surprised. We can have one last short-lived move back up to the upside, so we can truly solidify the money flow indicator, the RSI, becoming extremely overbought. But in my opinion, we do have another CPI, a consumer price index report, coming out on Wednesday, and we typically dump into these a couple of days beforehand. So in my opinion, by Monday or Tuesday, so basically in the next 48 to 72 hours, we're going to be massively rocketing to the downside for the next CPI meeting. That is all I've got for ICP. If you're going to take anything away from this video, it should be this weekly hidden bearish divergence that has been playing out for well over a year. If we do not have a strong blast above $11.49, not only are you not going to be invalidating this downtrend, but did you know that we would not be invalidating the hidden bearish divergence until you come up to $240? Let's say, even hypothetically, I don't think this is going to happen. If we come up to like $180, the RSI would be rocketing to the upside. But then all we could do is simply move the price action over and say, The price is still moving to the downside in the higher time frame. The RSI is still moving to the upside in the higher time frame, and this is where we'd finally probably solidify that next major move to the downside. So this hidden bearish divergence, the nastiest divergence I've ever seen in my life. Once again, this is all I think is going to be happening for ICP. Keep your eyes on my short-term price targets. $3.27 is definitely in play very, very soon. That's all I've got for you today, my friends, and as always, cowboy out. Peace.